Welcome back to Shoe Leather Faith. I'm Robert McMillan. We're continuing our series on love within the family, or love in marriage. We dealt last time with the first two loves that we see in the Bible, and that is agape love, which is the love that God has for us. It's an act of the will. It says, I will always act in your best interest. And it's the one word used in 1 Corinthians 13, the love chapter, to describe how we're to love. And then there's eros love, which is sexual love and romantic love, both together. The word is not used at all in the New Testament, but it is implied, and it's certainly seen, at least in the Song of Solomon, the English translation, it's seen there because that is an erotic love poem. Now we're going to deal with the last two kinds of love that we see in the Bible: philia love, or phileo love, and storge love, or storgos love. So let's look at the first of the two, philia. Before we get started, let me encourage you that I'm putting all of these notes online. Halfway through this series on love in marriage, I'm going to put these notes in a book form on my website, and you can download it for free. No cost. You don't have to leave any information with me. Just download it and use it. My gift to you. And I hope it'll be of use to you. But it's about 140 or 50 pages long, and I think it'll be beneficial to you. Love within marriage. You can use it in counseling, in a Bible study. Pastors can use it as research material for sermon series. It's just a valuable tool that you can use. If you like this video, please subscribe to it, and if you liked it enough, click like down below. And if you have any questions for me or any comments to me, there's room down below for you to put your comments and questions. So let's start off with philia love. Philia love. Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Philia love is that kind of love that's expected among friends, and it's hoped to be seen in families as well. Relatives. It's a warm and therefore emotionally engendered expression of care and concern for another person. It means to be fond of a relative or a friend. It also implies hospitality. If you're a hospitable person, you're exercising philia love. The next one is storge love. Now, this word isn't used anywhere in the Bible. Its negative form, astorgos, is used twice. And understanding the concept of astorgos will help you understand why this is such an important word, even though it's not even used. Turn, if you will, to Romans chapter 1. Romans chapter 1. And we'll start at verse 18. And it says, For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. So this tells me a few things. One, God's still in charge. Two, no one is deliberately ignorant. They suppress the truth. Literally, they hold down the truth in unrighteousness. So no one is ever going to stand before God and say, I didn't know. You didn't tell me. There wasn't enough information. Sir Bertrand Russell, the great atheist of the last generation, that's what his argument was going to be when he was asked, what if there really is a God, and what if you're standing before him in judgment? And Bertrand Russell said, I would complain that he hadn't given me enough information. And that's simply not true according to this verse. This whole passage starts the ball rolling. Look at it. Because what may be known of God is manifested in them, for God has shown it to them. The evidence is clear. And all of his invisible attributes are clearly seen, so that they're without excuse. Read that passage carefully, 18 through 31. Let's look at verse 21. Because although they knew God, they did not glorify him as God, nor were thankful, but became futile in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were darkened. There's the first step. Their foolish hearts became darkened. They can't see truth. They can't see light. They can't be illuminated. Professing to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the incorruptible God into an image made like corruptible man, and birds, and four-footed animals, and creeping thing. As a result of this, in verse 24, it says, "Therefore God gave them over to uncleanness, in the lusts of their hearts, to dishonor their bodies among themselves." So in verse 24, they dishonor their bodies. In verse 26, God gave them up to vile passions. And that's pretty much described here as homosexuality. And we've got that inundating our entire globe. There are very few places outside of Africa where that's not a real problem, where the law and the government is supporting that kind of activity. I believe we've gone past the tipping point. I've always prayed that God would bring us revival, but I don't know if He's going to do that this time. I think this truly is coming up to the end, because we're circling the drain, and there isn't much time left. In verse 28, it said, "And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a debased mind, to do the things which are not fitting." We're seeing that everywhere. And you don't need me to explain what that means. I think it's evident. Just look around. Watch CNN or Fox News or MSNBC. Personally, I try to go out of the country for my news. I use Reuters and BBC. And not that that's much better, but it gets a little objective distance. Let me put it that way. In verse 31, it says they're undiscerning, untrustworthy, unloving. And there's that word astorgos. They don't have, because of all the things that they have done and because God has given them over, they do not have any longer the love that's expected within the family unit. And what we're seeing today is the complete collapse of the family unit as a structure, as the underpinning of a culture, of a society, of a government, of a nation. And we shouldn't be surprised if things just simply go from bad to worse. Could God bring us revival, even at this late date? Yes, He could. I still pray for it. But I don't see the evidence of it happening, because the church just gets weaker and weaker here in the West. Fortunately, in the southern hemisphere, the church is becoming stronger. Everywhere there's persecution, the church seems to strengthen. And we know that from the Bible. The push of LGBT and gender fluidity and all that, that's just one part of the whole mess of debris that's being caused by a culture falling apart. And we're in that culture, and it is falling apart because we have lost the love within the family. And that's what God established cultures to protect. Not only do these people act wickedly and pay the price because God has turned them over to depraved bodies and minds and all the rest of it, but they encourage that in us, who, knowing the righteous judgment of God, that those who practice such things are deserving of death, not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them. In other words, they're going to encourage us to follow them to destruction. And they are astorgoi. They're unloving people. They don't know how to love. They're destroying the family, and they think they're wise. They're professing to be wise. Now, the last reference is in 2 Timothy chapter 3. 2 Timothy 3 and verse 3. It says, we'll start at verse 1. "But know this, that in the last days perilous times of pressure, will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy," and here's the key word, unloving. That's the same word. In other words, in the last days, love within the family unit is going to completely fall apart, and we are seeing that here in the West. Now, we've talked about 4 types of love. Agape love, which is an act of the will. I will always act in your best interest. And it's the word most used by God of His love for us in the New Testament. There's eros love, which is sexual and romantic love. There's philia love, which is friendship, warm friendship. As a matter of fact, there's a cognate of the word philia that is the word kiss in the Greek. So it is real friendship. And then there's storge, or astorgos, unloving, and it has to do with the love between the family members. Well, those are the 4 kinds of loves. If you have any questions about any of this, please put them down below. If you have a comment about any of it, please put those down below, and subscribe and like this channel. And in the meantime, pray for yourself during these very difficult days in which we're seeing a culture of 2,000 years get disassembled before our very eyes. Thank you very much.